It is September the 17th, 2018. We are live, baby. We are so live. Welcome to a beautiful weekend of football we had this past since Thursday. When you go back all the way back to the Cincinnati Bengals and the Baltimore Ravens, really was a great weekend of football with one game left where it come down to the Monday night tonight between the Seahawks and the Bears. One game left for this week 2 for the NFL. Week 3 is in the books for college football. Talk a little bit about that today. But look, I got a lot to talk about, man. I got my donkeys of the weekend in college and in the NFL. I also got talk about the top 25, which has happened. I know the Big Ten is struggling right now. Talk a little bit about yesterday's games, man. I'll talk about the teams I expected to bounce back. Remember I told y'all the other day teams that I expected to bounce back in week 2. I got 3 out the 4 of them right. Also talk about the big game yesterday. We're going to talk about the Cleveland Browns. We're going to talk about a lot in these 45 minutes of the next hour. So on the jump, let's go ahead and let's go straight to it. LSU went down to Auburn this past weekend, and somehow, some way, even being stagnant, being slow, they found a way to defeat the Auburn Tigers 22-21 with a game-winning field goal with Cole Tracy. I'm very impressed. 2 top 10 wins in 3 weeks. So almost in the first month of the season, LSU finds themselves ahead of the Sticks. So there's a lot to be proud of at this moment in time when you look at what LSU has done to put themselves in position to be now the number 6 ranked team in the country and not trying to jump ahead the schedule at all. And I mean, I looked at the schedule favorably when they come down to the next couple of weeks. You got LA Tech next week. You got Ole Miss the last weekend of September. The first weekend in October, you go back to Florida again. Then you have Georgia. So you find yourself possibly going into the Georgia game. If you ask me, you beat LA Tech, you beat Ole Miss, and you beat Florida, you find yourself at 6-0 against a 6-0 probably Georgia. Now, not jumping ahead of the Sticks. Not jumping ahead of the Sticks at all, because I respect Georgia. But if we can find some more confidence in Joe Burrow, especially between Ole Miss and Florida, and going into that Georgia game, I like our chances for sure. First thing first, at the end of the day, now granted, I'm still kind of concerned how LSU plays offense to a degree, because to me, there's just the defense can only hang in it for so long. Now, I got to give it to Dave Aranda, because Dave Aranda definitely is a hell of a scheme type coach, man. He went on the road. He gave his defense now at one point in time in the game, the offense went cold. There was 21 unanswered points. It was 21-10. At that point, I thought this game was over. The defense was on the field to me for too long. Offense going 3 and out. They're not making enough plays to keep themselves in the game, if you ask me. They wasn't. Really and truly, if Auburn secondary wasn't so retarded, that ball Burrow through should have been intercepted. The game should be over right there. But there's something I said we didn't know about Auburn. There's something I said we didn't know about LSU as well. We didn't know how good Auburn was after coming back from beating Washington this past week 1, early to start the year. We didn't know how good LSU was after beating Miami, to see where Miami is at right now. But one thing I can say about this team that I saw on Saturday, I saw bits and pieces because I was at my job. But the one thing I saw about this team on Saturday is that this team got a lot of heart. They got a lot of heart. They're going to compete. They're going to put themselves in positions to stay in the game and have a chance to win the game. So I said this before earlier in the year, if Ed Orgeron could find a way to beat 2 out the 4 teams that was in the contention for a national championship last year. As in, don't disrespect them. Miami went to the ACC championship game last year. Auburn went to the SEC championship game last year. Now you got the big boys coming up in about 3 weeks. Georgia is on the schedule soon. That was the runner-ups. SEC East champions, SEC champions, should have won the Natty, but they didn't. To be honest with you, confidence, because you're going to go back on the road to Florida. Florida won it. LSU and Florida always play tight games, regardless how bad Florida is right now. Florida won it. So if you ask me, LSU going on the road to Florida, you add more confidence. Then you come back, you host Georgia. That's probably going to be a night game if I had to guess. At night, the defense is going to keep you around in the game as long as they can. But can the offense make enough plays in the game to put you in a winning position? That's what I want to see for the next couple of weeks to give me confidence about going into playing Georgia. If LSU can find themselves with maybe a one-loss team this year, I'm going to be honest with you. LSU find themselves as a one-loss team this year, that's definitely a success. Ain't no telling where they're going to find themselves at the end of the year. Do the voters, especially how bad the Big Ten is playing right now, do the voters look at that later on in the year? Let's say they do lose to Alabama. They finish out the year. They find themselves at 10-1. Do the voters at least give them a chance? Do they give them a chance? I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know what will happen in the next couple of weeks, but I'm very, very satisfied to see this team's mental toughness. That's one thing I think that was lacking the last few seasons, even under Les Miles. Like, they almost lost a lot of mental toughness games. When they go back and they look, they went right out with Ole Miss, and the Ole Miss just beat the hell out of them a few years ago under Les. Like, they ran out of answers at one point in time. I'm just saying. I think LSU is in a good spot right now. Number 6 ranked team in the country. They find themselves now in a good position. 2 top 10 wins to start the year. Then you got coming up soon. You play Mississippi State soon. That's another top 25 team after Georgia. So from here on out, the schedule don't get no easier. I'm looking at the schedule from here. You got 1, 2, 3, 4 people that's in the top 25. But A&M, who I think is going to continue to move up. You got Georgia, you got Alabama, you got Mississippi State. But so far, I said if El Jerome finds a way to beat at least 2 of the teams that was in contention last season for a national title, he's definitely going to get his run. Now, I think for sure if he finishes the season on a high note, the buzz around Baton Rouge next year, especially if Burrow get more confidence back there, the buzz around Baton Rouge next year is going to be high about LSU making a chance to make a run for a national title. We just got to wait and see. Let's go back and recap that game right quick. Just right quick. Not going to hold it too long. Let's look at the numbers. Jarrett Stidham. Once again, Stidham not playing his best. He had a good second quarter. He had a good third quarter. And from there, Stidham just kind of fell apart. 16 for 28, 198, and 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. I think Jarrett Stidham is probably, the preseason ranking, he was the best SEC quarterback in preseason ranking. I think now you got to look at, you got Tia Tagovailoa, who's balling over there at Alabama, doing stuff that Alabama never really had truly at a quarterback position. So I think Stidham's starting to take that step back and progress instead of going forward and to be a better player. This game might hurt his draft stock, because this is the NFL talented defense. Joe Burrow went 15 for 34, and that's my biggest theory about it. You can't go 15 for 34. That's less than half your passes that's completed. 249 yards, 1 TD. You had the big 71-yard touchdown. That was just if the defensive back would have been in better position, would have picked it all, and that potentially would have been your game. So, a lot of things I learned. Like I said, this team got a lot of heart, got a lot of toughness. This team put themselves in a good position to win this game, and I was very impressed what they did over what they were able to accomplish in the first 3 weeks of the season so far. We got to see if they can continue to get better and progress, get better, add more to the offense, show the defense more looks. That's what I want to see in the next couple of weeks from LSU. All right, so let's talk about Donkey of the Week right quick. And my Donkey of the Week got to be, I'm sorry, I got to give it to him. I gotta give it to him. It got to be Florida State versus Syracuse this past weekend. Florida State had 11 penalties for 90 yards, and also Florida State also went 1 for 14 on third down this past weekend. 1 for 13 on third down. Now, a lot of things, I'm going to tell you something. I was doing the test for one of my classes earlier Saturday morning, and I was turned it off to take the test, and I said, when I come back, I'm going to put the game on. So by the time I finished the test, it came down to about early third quarter. It was 6-0. I said, they must be struggling because they've been struggling the last couple of weeks and didn't really get much going so far, blase. So I looked at it, then boom, I come back. I kind of just went out the room for a little while, cleaned myself up, and I come back and I look. It's already, it started to get turned into a show. There was no answers from the Seminoles. The defense was on the field too long. Offensively, you can tell DeAndre Francois snapping on his offensive lineman because they're not helping the man out. The man got to sit back and hurry up and throw because he don't have no help up front. And this one I call out the coach, man. And one thing I say separates great coaches from average coaches is attitudes. And we don't see it a lot, but one thing I notice about Willie Taggart, and this is one thing I want to see out of him in the next couple of weeks, is he always has the same face. Even in interviews, he always has the same calm face, like there's nothing wrong. And I know there's nothing he really per se. To me, he got to set a fire under these guys because the message he's sending right now to the Tribe Nation right now is not good. You only scored 10 points total in ACC play so far. 10 points total. You scored 3 against Virginia Tech. You scored 7 against Syracuse. And if you ask me defensively, the defense gave up 6 points in a normal Florida State game when you're going into the third quarter. Florida State should at least have, by this time, at least 35 points. It should be 35-6. But when you don't do the small things right, blocking up front, taking care of your assignments, your quarterback is getting killed. I don't know how the boy don't have a concussion. The boy probably seeing next week, probably seeing different teams on the field, how much he's been hit. Florida State's in not a good spot right now. They remind me where Michigan was a few years ago after, I think when Charlie Weiss was the head coach and then things wasn't going right. Not Charlie Weiss. It was somebody else. They're not in a good spot right now. I think they could turn around, but I would love to see if Taggart going to light a fire under these guys. So for the Seminoles, I'm sorry I got to do it to you. You the donkey of the weekend when it come down to college football. Let's talk about the top 25 right quick. Top 25. Really and truly, really not too much to really talk about. We all know what the top 25 is going to consist of right quick. Let me find it for you guys. I had it on there earlier. All right, top 25. Let's go ahead and look from 25 on up. Number 2015 ranked in the country is BYU. Michigan State 24, Boston College 23, A&M 22, Miami 21, Oregon 20, Michigan 19, 18, Wisconsin after losing this past weekend to BYU. TCU is 17 after losing to Ohio State this past weekend. UCF is 16, Oklahoma State is 15, 14 in Mississippi State, 13 is Virginia Tech. West Virginia is 12, 10 is Washington. Penn State Penn State and Washington is tied at 10. 9 is Auburn, 8 is Notre Dame, 7 is Stanford, 6 is LSU, 5 is Oklahoma, 4 is Ohio State, Clemson is 3, Georgia is 2, and Alabama is 1. Yes, that's the USA. No, that was the AP poll. That was the AP poll. So, fellas, a big jump has happened. College football starting to shake up early. Let me probably get more and more into it this week when it come down to possibly looking at more big matchups coming up over the weekend. If you ask me, I think the LSU and Auburn game was the bigger matchup than over Ohio State and TCU. I think they just made it bigger because it was played at a neutral site in Texas this past weekend. But that game, LSU and Auburn went